Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Build It Basement for yet another live chat. Hey guys, just wanted to touch base and say hello to everybody. So I guess we'll start off with saying hello to everybody, and before I do that though, I want to make sure you guys can hear me okay. So if I can get a thumbs up or everything's good or one of those types of things. Want to make sure you guys can hear me before I look like a mime. There we go, get some thumbs up. Awesome. All right, so take a quick drink. I just had a peanut butter cup, so pardon the appearance. All right, so who do we have? We have Breaking Elegance. Hey, how we doing? Nice, and you're very welcome for the CNC tab video. There's actually, I don't know, maybe like a total of 4 videos that kind of cover a span of that CNC tab thing, because I do think that's a good part. I haven't had any issues with it. Some people have had issues with them, but it's worked out pretty well for me. I got Max. Max is back for a double dose of the Build It Basement. I've been chatting back and forth a little bit. Max has been joined us last live stream we did, and this is kind of a summer thing, not so much of the video tutorials, more the live stuff, just because there's a lot going on in summertime. But anyways, I want to welcome Max back. Keep the questions coming. I've had fun, more than willing to answer. And if you have questions during a stream like this, Max, feel free to ask them out. I don't have all the answers, but we got a good group of people here that like to help out, so that's awesome. Nuno's here, so he's visiting all the way from Portugal. So hello, how are we doing? I got my buddy down there, a little south of me down there at the Poor Boy channel. Surprised you're not streaming right now, but hopefully we all keep kind of a schedule, right? Let's see here. Woody is listening while he eats because he is currently having dinner, which is pretty good. I'll make fun of Woody. Even in his advanced age, he doesn't eat the 5 o'clock or the 4:30 dinners, so good for him. Woody, it's my way of poking fun, just because we're all family, right? Let's see, good morning, afternoon, evening, all from Sid the engineer. Same to you, my friend. I got your message earlier on the Discord, which I believe the stream bot will drop in a link for that Discord. If you haven't joined the Discord, I do say if you're interested, go ahead and throw yourself into that. A lot of times I'm around. Sometimes I randomly, because I don't want to do a stream or anything like that, because I got absolutely nothing to really talk about, but I will throw my video up while I'm down here doing stuff. I don't believe in making completely frivolous content, so if I'm down here working and I have Discord up, I might throw my camera up in the lounge, and more than willing to chat while I'm doing other things. My attention span might be a little short because I'm kind of probably prepping and doing other things, but anyways, my attention span short anyways. Let's see here. That's good. Channel, let's see. Poor Boy channel optical sensor came in for my tap today. Yeah, boy. Nice. Okay. Let's see. And Skyrim's here. Hello, everyone. Been running the untapped version. How are you liking that untapped version? So that's with an actual switch. So I'll just say one more. Midlife Chaos is here. So hello, Midlife Chaos. And there's a stream bot here saying hello as well. Poor Boy, I just want to ask you, first of all, do you like the sandwich? And second of all, the untap. The untap, that's basically a tap, and as opposed to using the optical, using a micro switch on it, which is interesting because if you're not aware, on the CNC tap, there's actually a different form of an optical. I'm told it's an optical switch. I don't know for sure, honestly. I'll believe it because that's what they're telling me, but basically it is a micro switch with an optical switch on the inside of it, I guess. It's similar to what they use in high precision gaming mice, I'm told. I don't know. It is smaller than the normal optical switch, but anyways, having issues with that normal untap, the clicky untap thingy there, because I will tell you that from what I understand, it should work just fine. I think we're starting to realize that the fancier we get, the more complicated things get. They don't necessarily get that much better. So anyways, Let's see here. Max, can you please send us Discord invite? The Stream Elements will send one out pretty soon here, so give that a moment or two. I think it will send one out. If it doesn't, I will make sure I send one in there. Actually, just to make sure, and since I don't have a lot to talk about really, we're just kind of hanging out today, I will do that right now. Why not, right? So let's go server, and bada bing, bada boom. Why edit server settings? Why am I not remembering where that is? I think I have to be here. Invite people. There we go. All right, so copy, and Max, just for you, buddy. There it is. The R8 is good, poor boy. Oh, the new build. So what he's talking about, revision 8. What did you say, poor boy? He said it worked fine for a while, but started to give me issues. That's why I'm upgrading the optical sensor now. Voron came out with a new version as well, the RC8. So the RC8, from what I understand, is a stiffening of the Voron tap. I guess we'll talk about the Voron tap a little bit for everybody that doesn't know. And if you weren't early enough, I'll actually show you this real quick. So let's see here, which camera? So we're actually doing a test print right now. We're using the Build It Basement cube that Woody designed for me. So we'll see how that comes out. Up here we have our little buddy. I'm not going to say his name because a certain company that started by a certain individual down around the Florida area, maybe California, might wind up suing me or something. I don't know. But anyways, I want to show you that. Printer's printing, doing some testing and stuff like that so I can get some new content out in terms of tuning. But I just want to show you that real quick, and I want to talk about the tap a little bit with you guys. So I actually, in the short span of time the tap's been out, I've had a decent amount of experience with it, all the way from the debacle with the 5 volt, 20 volt, 24 volt setups. I've built the tap in 2 revisions. I've used 2 different types of boards for the optical tap. Actually, 1 type of board and 1 straight up optical sensor. Where are those? I have those parts around here somewhere. Parts are not that expensive really, but anyways, I've done that, and I've also used a CNC tap, which is what's currently on the machine that's printing right now, the Ulti-Bib, if you will. So here's what I'll say about the tap. Even going back to whatever revision this was, I don't even recall. It's a very, very well designed solution to a problem. So what's the problem? If you don't know, the problem is basically offsets suck. I haven't got better words for it. Having offsets is just a plain pain in the rear, you know? So the best way to get rid of an offset is to make the point of your printer that you're actually shoving filament through be your point of measurement for your printing, for your Z-axis. So tap allows for that to happen. And so through different versions of tap, what they've done, they've modified things, stiffened up different parts, modified different parts. But the basis of tap basically is a 3-part system with some smaller parts inside of it. But basically a back plate, and then basically you have on top of that, when I say backplate, sorry. On top of that, you have the piece that your optical sensor or your clicky sensor, whatever you want to call it, is mounted to. Up top here, this is actually a separate piece, more for printing than anything else. And then you have inside of it, you have a very small MGN9. Yep. And then you have a couple of very strong magnets to basically make everything work, kind of bring everything back up. So in a resting position, the weight of the tool head brings it down. When it hits the bed, and when it taps the bed, it pushes it up, optical sensor goes off, and you get a, you get what you get. The only difference between a tap and a clicky probe is the fact that you're using the nozzle to basically tap the, the building surface or the printing surface. And with some of the tap revisions, or some of the tap, I won't call them clones, they're not really clones, but basically as opposed to using that optical sensor, you're using a physical switch, which I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It all depends on what your tolerances of your switches and tolerance of your optical switches. So anyways, that's original tap. After I've done revisions, making it different, things like that. And then you get over into the CNC tap, which basically is a tap that is extruded aluminum or machined aluminum, I should say. But the biggest thing on that is it's actually lighter than the Voron design team's taps. And the way that they accomplish that is, one, they need less material to deal with the forces that are happening at the tap, because you're at the tool head. It's pretty much the heaviest, you know, it has the most inertia going on in terms of parts on the printer, because it's been spun around at, you know, 4K accelerations, 2K, 5K, whatever you're running at. So they've been able to make it a lot thinner because it's made of aluminum as opposed to a plastic. On top of that, they've actually sourced and have installed in these things a much smaller linear rail, an MGN7, which really cuts down the weight by about half almost. So the whole thing in general weighs a lot less than the other one. So I like that. I like how stiff it is. I do think it's a good use of aluminum parts on a printer. I historically have not been a big fan of aluminum parts, but in this particular case, with the thin parts on the backside of the tap, on the mounting portions of it, I'm not against it. I think it works very well. It's kind of like the difference between having linear rails made out of a material other than metal. They should be metal, and I think tap probably should be metal as well. So that's my spiel on tap. Let's see here. Pull channel, did some source tap PCB. Where'd you source tap PCB from? Can't wait to get this thing working, Woody. New version uses 4 N51 magnets now, or you can stick with the screws, just use 2 magnets. So I'll talk about that real quick too. I think that probably, and it's not really a weak point, because there's actually enough sticking force. I was severely surprised when I built this, and it works. Yeah, it works. That the only thing that the magnets are actually attracted to are the tops of some screws, but it's enough to do it, and it's more than enough. And in actuality, I never found that to be the issue. I have wondered, and I've been totally, I won't say flamed for, but I've been shot down on the thought process of if there was more magnetism or more force to draw that up. Not necessarily are we looking for additional force, but because of the additional magnetic force, would it slap up quicker, which make it, you know, if it's moving quicker, would it be more accurate because there's no delay? But I guess the smarter people out there have told me that that's not the case. So anyways, let's see here. I use one on one side, one on the other side. Why are you, oh, one side. So you're talking about 1 to 1, not one on each, the left and right side. So 4 magnets total, but strong the other at each interface. I got the wrong N52. Yeah, so anywho, good with that. So this just finished printing. Let's take a look at what we got here. Let's see here. Do you know if we can install tap with a Stealthburner PCB tool head? Yes. The PCB tool, Stealthburner PCB tool head. Yeah, it shouldn't be an issue. It's actually made for the biggest thing is it works with the clockwork. So it's your mounting point on the back for your the clockwork that mounts to the tap. So this is a guy here. I've already had him out. My daughter decided that he needed some underwear or some pants, so she put that on him. I thought that looked pretty cool. I printed that last night. Came out pretty well. That used tree supports from Orca Slicer. So I'm going to talk a little about Orca Slicer today because I've just started using it. So if you're using Orca Slicer or have questions about it, please feel free to throw those up. I am liking it. I know you're not supposed to do that while it's hot. We're doing it anyways. All right, I'm gonna close that up because the fans are all running. There we go. And let's take a look what we got here. This is kind of cool. Kind of sharing it live. I have no idea. So let me get my impression so I can give you it, and then you can give me your impression. So it looks pretty good. I have not done a full calibration on the printer yet. I have not done E-steps. I did do a pressure advance tune. I actually have not done, I was thinking about this today, I have not done a bed mesh on this. It's not part of my startup on this printer yet. It wasn't originally on my other printer, and then at one point in time it switched, flip-flopped, and everybody decided that everybody should be doing a bed mesh for every single print. With this Mandela Roseworks bed and the tap, actually more the bed, I guess, because it is an ultra flat bed. I haven't done one, so maybe we'll do one of those live just to see what it looks like, because I have no clue what the bed mesh is going to look like, because I haven't done one. But here is the print. I guess we can kind of, is it going to focus?
It looks pretty good. Nothing to complain about it. So it's going to be a lot of work, but
for first calibration cube, it looks pretty decent. Let's see here what we got for size. We're at
show up.
30. We're at 30 there. Where are we at here? Yeah, we're a smidge over 30. Let me change that a little bit so you can see it. On the 0.1, so a little bit over on the Z. So, but that could be E stuff. That could be the we could be over extruding slightly. But all in all, that's not too bad. It's not too shabby. But while I'm using this camera, we're forcing it to focus on different things. Let me turn that off so the battery doesn't die. Come on, turn off. There we go. Here's my little guy here.
Yeah, so he turned out pretty well. Very impressed with the tracer ports for that.
And it printed relatively quick. So, anyways, let's see what we got here for more comments. Let's see here. Let's see. Orca Slicer versus Super Slicer. We can talk about that. Measure it. We just did measure it. I was ahead of you. I'm digging Orca Slicer big time. Cool. I like Orca Slicer. Big problem is I cannot handle some million facet. It cannot handle some million facet hue forge, but other than that, I like it a lot. Okay. Whoa, your audio. Is it too loud? Anyways, hey all. The audio goes crazy when it auto focuses. It does? That would be really odd because the camera audio isn't actually on this. It's only on this audio. Huh. All right. Well, I guess I won't make it autofocus anymore. Let's see here. You block the mic when you hold the item to the camera. That sounds very likely. You're always getting blocked by your neck. Oh, I got a thick neck. Oh well. All right. We're past that anyways. All right. So, yeah. So Orca Slicer, and I will actually do my share screen here. There we go. Yeah, I sometimes I'm a little embarrassed. Where am I? Sometimes a little embarrassed to admit it, but I've been using Cura Slicer for way too long. I've been playing with Cura Slicer now for probably about 2.5 years or so. My first slicer was the slicer that came with Creality, which is basically a dubbed over version of Cura. So my Ender 5, when I had that was running that, and I just got used to it, so it was an upgrade at that point in time way back when. And it's one of those things, kind of like anything else, when you get used to it, you don't want to change, and you hate change, so you don't change. But I finally am biting the bullet here, and I'm changing. I'm trying Orca Slicer. I have played with Super Slicer. I will say that Orca Slicer is more similar to Super Slicer than anything else because they're all built off of the same kind of platform. They're all forks of each other. But that being said, a couple of things I really like about this Orca Slicer. One is the interface I'm getting used to. That's the biggest problem you have when you switch over from one slicer to another, is finding the things that you like to modify. I will say that the supports that come out with this particular version of Orca Slicer are are dead nuts on. They're very good. They provide exactly what you need for support for the material you're working with. I did not spend, like I haven't said, I haven't spent a lot of time of tuning anything. The fact that it has, let me get rid of this real quick. The fact that it has your calibration in here, I'm not used to having this, but this is pretty cool. I did do a couple temperature towers just to play with them because my friend Rich, who possibly is not here, but Rich is always talking about temperature towers, and I did some. I don't normally do them, but that was kind of neat. I did my pressure advance here. I did not do a retraction test. I haven't done. I did do a tolerance test actually. So I did the tolerance test, and I came out to a little sticky in the 0.05 realm on that. It's actually stuck in there right now. So, but that worked out pretty well. I got that right there. But anyways, I was impressed with that. And then the other thing I really liked about this, in case you're not using it, and this might be stuff you already know, but we're hanging out, and I'll get back to comments here in a minute. But is the fact that once you slice something, you can come here to print, and basically once you put in the information for your printer, you can then print directly to your printer. So you put in the host type, what you have for a printer host type, your IP address of your printer. If you're using a API key with a password, then you get to name your machine. Once you do that, you can print directly to your printer, so you don't have to actually go into the UI of the printer and do things there. However, if you do want to go in the UI of your printer and do things there, the cool thing with that is you can click right into it. So you can click on device, and it actually brings up a embedded web browser in the slicer to basically interface directly with your printer from the slicer, which, you know, maybe you know this and maybe this is not news to you, but to me, that's pretty damn cool. I'm really impressed with that because that's nice. And you can see some of the faults here. I don't have a state for print end in my printer right now. I'm not using it. So, but anyways, between that, the preview, that's a lot of slicers now will do a preview, so you can have it on your little screen in front of your printer, which is more of an aesthetic thing than anything else. But and then the slicing tolerances seem really nice. The interface to work with is pretty quick. I think it's using the Arcane. Let me see, actually. What is it using here? It is using... Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's slicing very quickly, so there's no issues there. It works pretty well. Anyways, I'm not gonna get too much into it. Maybe we'll do a video about this if people aren't interested in it, but I'm probably the last to jump ship and get on to the Orca. Than everybody else, and you know, that's a me thing. I know there are still some people like me that are using what they've already used, and I guess my lesson to be learned, and a lesson, or the teaching moment here, is basically that you know what, if you're afraid to try new things, don't be. You should. So let's see what the chat's doing. Let's see how many people. I'm digging Orca Big Slab. Watch your audio. Skip. Let's go down here. Optical tabs, let's see. By the way, I am willing to make any of you a custom cube. Okay, so Woody is willing to make anybody a custom cube if they want to send a logo. So if you've got a printer, you're going to say it, I'm going to advertise it for you. So if you got a printer with a name, and I think Woody, if Max wants one, because Max is our new friend here, and we're trying to help Max along because he's not the oldest in the room. I think Max deserves a cube for a printer. So Max gonna have to come up with something, and I can put you guys in touch, especially Max. If you get into the Discord, I'm pretty easy to find. It's the Build a Basement thing. I'll put you in touch with Woody, and you guys can have some fun. And that'll be a huge generational gap, which is also kind of fun too. So anyways, David, I still personally prefer a Prusa slicer. I said Prusa. Just have profiles dialed in. That's the thing, yeah. But if you're using Orc Slice a bit and it gets good, it gets my approval. See, that's the thing too. But you're using the Prusa slicer and you have it dialed in, you have it the way you like it, and everything's already set. You have probably your filament set, you have your printer set, and it just seems like, you know what? If actually, if there's a dev from Orca or any of these other slicers that are looking to pull people in from other slicing programs, such as Cura would be a good one. Somebody should design a import-export of slicing profiles. So basically, it's going to have to actually convert a lot of things because they're not named the exact same thing between profiles. But if somebody create a program that was able to take your profile from Cura and then slap it into Orca with as close as possible, and then maybe a pop-up window with modifications for, hey, you have this here, this does not cover this, but these 3 items are similar, would you like to modify those? I think that would be awesome. That would help people move over to things. Just a quick thought. Let's see here. Let's see. David to Poor Boy. Just swapped my Trident and 2.4 to sensorless homing yesterday. I have CAN bus umbilical parts en route. Still waiting on the LDO superpowers too. So the new printer I'm building is going to be used sensorless homing. I'm interested in knowing how you're liking that, David. I've been a little bit worried about it because I don't like necessarily the idea of my tool head being forced to end it, and then, you know, obviously this is happening in a split second, in a blink of an eye, if not less. But basically the stepper drawing more current, which then goes back into the STM chip, and it's able to read that, and then it says, oh, he's at the end spot. It's kind of wonky, but I think it works, and we're going to do that on the other printer when we do it. And everybody already knows we're going to do an umbilical setup on that with a CAN. So, and if you don't know that, then go back and watch a bunch of videos. I talk about that quite a bit. Let's see here. Poor Boy. Yeah, why doesn't Poor Boy have one? You could do a PB there, Woody. Yeah. I have a custom Green Hornet cube. Yep, you have a Green Hornet cube, and you also did a Star Trek cube for Peter. Peter, no, not Peter. So many people. Robert, sorry, Robert. Robert's not here, so shh, don't tell Robert I forgot his name. Let's see here. Pretty dang cool, yes. Exactly, once I take time, get it all in Orca slicer profiles made and dialed in, I will be good. I'm actually surprised you can import Prusa slice profiles in the Orca. You can't yet import, yeah. So I think that's one of the biggest things. I think they really, somebody that really wants to try to like bring in the market, and I say market because it's pretty much free software, so it's not really a market, but if somebody wanted to be really cool on a dev for like something like Orca slicer, and went ahead and made a tool to import profiles from other programs, or even a side program, somebody a third-party program that did that. I think that'd be good. I'd be willing to help foster that. I think that'd be good for everybody. Collie's here. Hi all. Hi Collie. Let's see. David, I build Vorn has great documentation for sensorless homing now. Officially docks which make it easier to follow and set up, and works great. Highly recommend it. Less hardware and wires. Yeah, that's kind of the deal on the update of the other printer, which I might pull over here today. It's in shambles, to be honest with you. I've really done no upkeep on it over the past 2 or 3 months. About the time I got finished printing parts for this thing, I pretty much have beat on it because, well, we're ripping it apart, so why not? But yeah, so I am interested. Yeah, it's just the fine tuning, I guess, that you have to get into as to what is and isn't an actual end stop hit on the sensorless. I also am interested, because I always have to think of stuff to the nth degree, of other uses for that sensorless homing, maybe possibly for collision detection, or extrusion issues, you know, skipped extrusion or jammed extruder, or even a filament runout sensor at the extruder, because you would have to think, if you're able to dial things in enough, that if the extruder was running with bare nothing for resistance, then it would know that the filament had run out, and vice versa. If it was trying to push filament and wasn't able to, and it was skipping through the teeth, then there would be, I know you're talking about close tolerances here, but you might be able to actually sense that as a jammed filament path. So I think there's things that we could do there, and I'm sure there's somebody already working on that. Let's see here. Thing okay. Just finished my KAC Labs CNC Tap Plus parts 2.4 build, and it's working beautifully in the large part of your videos and helped in their Discord. Thanks for what you do. Hey, thank you for being here and thank you for watching. I try. I'm not perfect. A lot of people, actually, we'll talk a couple things about that. You bring up some good points. Okay, you're thanking me for the videos, and I appreciate it. But I will put out there right now that I'd say probably 99% of the comments are positive. Every once in a while, I get a negative one. And the negative ones aren't negative in the sense that they're mean. They're negative in the sense of, you know, hey, you should consider changing that. So some of the negative ones I get are, one thing is this camera view. Some people don't like this camera view. I explained to them that the camera sits a little bit higher than me because in front of me, actually, I think people have seen this before, but why not show it off here? In front of me sits my monitor tray. So my camera sits up there above my monitor, and that is my monitor screen so I can see what's going on. So that's why my camera's up there, so I can kind of look at the camera while I can see myself. So, you know, I can kind of see whether or not my video is skipping or if anything's happening like that. So that's one comment I get. One other comment I got was they don't like the transitions between the scenes. You know, I can do fades, I can do whatever. Somebody mentioned Scooby-Doo, which I thought was kind of funny, but I like my transitions. I might change them, I don't know. If people complain about it enough, I'll change it. The other thing I had once was, what was it? They wish I was scripting more, and I'll explain the style of my videos since this is a live chat. Style of my videos, I don't like to do live chat build videos because the issue with that, and no offense to people that do them, there's a couple of people in here that do them and they work for them, but I have trouble going hours on end. And if I did a 4-hour live stream video with build involved in the video, I would probably get about 10 minutes worth of work done. I have enough trouble doing recorded video builds without having to deal with, or not deal with, without having to respond to or read comments. It's fun for the people watching it live. It's not so fun for people watching the replays when you're reading comments and doing a build. So I choose to do them a little bit separately. On top of that, on my videos, on my build videos, if you haven't seen them, if you're just here out of happenstance, I don't edit the videos. I try to run through them on a first, you know, basically I hit the ground running and I just keep going. There's a few times where I've had to pause something because something happens or something like that, but I don't edit. None of it's edited. I don't go back through them. They are what they are, and if I make mistakes, I make mistakes. I try to mention in the comments, or I mention it in the description, or I go back and fix it in the next video or during that video. It is what it is, and I think it's more human. It's real, right? So anyway, I just want to get that off my chest. Let's see here. Ray, how we doing, Ray? What sold me was the new supporting docs and Warren team, Centralist. Just search Centralist homing and Warren to find them. I'll do that. I'm going to do that. Bob likes camera view. Well, good. I appreciate that. You can't make everybody happy. No, you can't make everybody happy. I guess, you know, the old saying goes, the most important person to make happy is yourself. So there you go. When you transition like that, the microphone seems to drop volume too. Yeah, there's a ducking thing that happens a little bit, and I only usually change transitions when I'm doing live build videos, which I don't talk as much during. I don't try to talk during this transition. Sometimes I do it on these because it's more of a chit chat thing. And in all honesty, if I could have you guys all like with video and we could all just hang out, that would be my optimal thing. So, Max likes everything. Good for him. Let's see. And my daughter is saying, thanks for the stitch, Dad. So that's the, this guy right here. We won't say his name. So that company that we talked about earlier doesn't try to make things hard on me. You're welcome, Haley. Let's see here. Just do you, simples. Yep. So anyways, yeah, I want to talk about that. We talked about the printer a little bit. Do you guys have any questions about this particular printer? Because one of the other questions I got during the week was a comparison of, and I don't want to do an actual build style video for it, but somebody was asking, I don't recall who it was specifically, but somebody was asking about a comparison of this LDO kit build versus the old FormBot kit build I did. And the questions that they were asking was basically with the upgrades I did on this printer, if I started with a FormBot kit, did the upgrades, and then possibly upgrade a few other parts, it still would have been about $500 cheaper to US dollars to do the FormBot kit and then upgrade parts from there. And they have a very valid point, but I will say that the LDO kit, and I've already said this before during the build, take a quick drink here. I will say, it was Timothy. See, I didn't know you were here. Transition microphone. Oh, you're right there. It was you. Okay, so I will say that as much as I enjoyed the LDO kit build, which is part of the reason why I build these kits, is to kind of see them and put them out there so people can see them as well. I did find a couple of things very frustrating with the LDO kit that I didn't find as frustrating with the FormBot kit. So there are some things that LDO did on this kit, and let me, so we're not just staring at me the whole time. Let's do this right here. There we go. The frame was awesome, but you know, it's extrusions. It's hard to screw them up. The frame was awesome. Everything was cut perfectly well. Everything was tapped really well. So that I have no complaints about. The motors are LDO motors. LDO's the de facto motor to go with when you're building a Voron printer. There are motors that have more torque. There are motors that you can push a little bit harder, but LDO's kind of de facto. The parts that we provide for the motion system are all gates, as far as I can tell. I know they're gates belts are labeled, the idlers and whatnot. I can only assume they're gates. They might not be. I really couldn't tell, and I'm not going to look at everything under a microscope to be able to tell. The linear rails, I'll talk about linear rails for a second. The linear rails on this, for risk of offending LDO, I will say that I wasn't hugely impressed with the linear rails on this printer. They are okay. They are decent. They are not great. They will definitely work, and I don't foresee them having issues in the long run. But I did have one bad rail. My MGN12 here in the back on my X did go bad. That's actually part of it right here. Actually, that's the one I stole off of. Here's the LDO, yep. So this rail right here, I don't know if you can hear that, but it got a little clunky, and I don't have a better way of explaining it. I took it apart twice. I cleaned it twice. I re-lubed it a good 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 times. And eventually I took it off, replaced it with a, that's actually a, that is a KB3D carriage on a Fabrico maybe rail. I had to find a combination of work that would make it work for me, so that worked, and it seems to be working really well. So it works a hell of a lot better than the LDO one does. I was playing with the printer, doing some testing, and what I was finding is I was getting this really bad rumble on it. Took it apart, put it all back together. It went away a little bit, came right back. So not impressed with that. So there's that. Other than that, the electronics that came with the printer, those are all pretty decent. I don't have any problem with those at all. I didn't get a 5-volt power converter with the LDO kit, and I strongly suggest that you do have one. A nice Meanwell for 5 volts, especially if you plan on doing a lot of LEDs, specifically 5-volt LEDs. It did come with an Octopus, which is a very good controller. It did come with a Meanwell 24-volt supply. The bed that came with it was very nice, even though I didn't use it. I gave that to Rich for a dedication build he was doing, so that got transferred through my friend Kris at KB3D, who a lot of this stuff came from, so I'll give props to Kris for that. Kris is actually going to be helping me out with the new build too. But that in a nutshell is kind of everything I feel about the LDO kit. And I'll talk about the form bit after I look at these comments here for a second. Do you have any experience with CAN bus, specifically the EBB36? I'm trying to decide on a mount plus strain release solution. Something tells me that the PG9 gland will be a bit heavy and in the way. So I have not done a CAN bus yet, so I'm not the best person to ask that question to, as much as I'd love to, and I could possibly kind of stretch things and tell you some things, but I don't picture a gland strain relief. Something tells me the PG7 gland style will be a bit heavy in the way. I'm not familiar with the PG7 style gland, but I can't imagine there'd be any more in the way than anything else that's on a non-CAN bus style print head. So the other printer we're building that will have CAN bus. Now that's going to be running the, I went over in the last video, but it's going to be running all big tree tech stuff on that one. So that'll be pretty interesting when I get into that. I like the interaction between me and the viewer and being able to interact with you, the content creator. It's real, not scripted. Yep, I agree. That's what I like about your stuff too, man. The LDO Rev C 2.4 have really good rails. I'm not saying the rails are bad. I'm saying that the quality control on the rails, I think maybe 1 in 20 rails might come out not quite as good as they could. How about that? And maybe they are changing suppliers through this whole thing. I can't answer that. I'm not LDO. And I don't really want to upset them too much, but it's my experience. And if I didn't tell you what my true experience was, then I'd be upsetting myself. I would recommend anyone swap out at least the X rail from the kits and the highest quality rail possible, Berserker, Honey Badger, etc. After that, you need second best for your Ys and just okay rails for your 4Zs. I 100% agree with that. I don't know if I did that during the build, but that is a very common practice, is to take out all your rails. Obviously, with the newer 2.4 Rev 2, and actually slightly before that, but originally there was 2 MGM9s, if you're not familiar, on your X rail. There's one on the front and one on the bottom, and it kind of held it like that, and it locked it in place because you had a 90-degree difference between the two. It was actually a pretty good setup, but weighed more than the MGM12, and people had a lot of difficulty getting them both lined up because you're dealing again with 2 axes. And it was kind of a mess. But that is a very common practice. I would suggest anybody to get out all their linear rails when they buy a kit, if you buy a kit, or if you don't buy a kit and you source the linear rails, get them all cleaned up, get them all lubed up, and then by ear, by feel, go ahead and work those rails back and forth and do exactly what David's saying there in terms of taking your best rails to do what they do. The reason why he's saying the X, Y, and Z's all separately is, in practice, your X, if you look at code, your X is going to get the most movement. It's going to get the fastest movements depending on how fast you're printing. And it's the only one rail that's supporting that X. On your Y, you're down to 2 rails, second most amount of movement on there. And there's still quite a bit of stress on it. Not anywhere near as much as on the X, but quite a bit. On your Z's, 1, you're not going to be moving Z too quickly. Even if you're printing at obscene speeds, your Z is never going to move anywhere near as quickly as your X or your Y. Plus you have 4 supports there, and everything kind of works its way out. And, you know, again, the movement's not quick enough to actually make too much of a difference. So that's why there's a suggestion to do that, if you don't know. Quick question, hopefully, how often do most people re-grease their rails? Sid, that's a very good question. I will answer for me, but you said most people, so I'm only one person. I will tell you that it depends on what you're using for lubrication. I will tell you that the speed demons out there tend to use a lighter lubrication, anything from, actually we'll start way, way, way back. Anything from, what is it called? Sewing machine oil. So I guess there's a certain type of oil that you use on a sewing machine that's very, very thin, and then up to like lithium greases and all the way up to, you know, the Mobilux stuff. So the lighter the oil, the more often you need to re-oil or re-grease your parts. The positive of using a lighter oil versus a grease is the fact that you can get faster motion at it. There's there's less friction there. Whether the friction is good or bad, there's less of it. The negative is, of course, is that that stuff falls out. So when you have something like a grease, it's sticky, it stays in place, it works for a pretty long time. When you have something like an oil, it runs out pretty quick. Lithium is pretty light when it comes to the greases, so that runs out pretty quick. I would say, and this is something you can play with. I mean, it's a hobby. It's one of those things that you can always play around with. But I even know some people, me included, that have run lithium on our X rail and then Mobilux on everything else. And I would say that if you are running Mobilux and everything, which is kind of the de facto easy thing to do, I think you can probably go about, depending how much you print, assuming you print maybe, we'll say 20 hours a week. And I don't know if that's a lot to some people or if that's nothing to other people, but we'll just say 20 hours a week is a rough number on average across the board. I think you can easily get 6 months, maybe to 9 months easily. You could push it to a year. That's actually going to be a big thing on the rebuild, is we're going to talk about maintenance, because that one needs maintenance. But that was a very good question. I like that. Let's see here. West 3D looks like they have an interesting 2.4 kit with the ability to customize each component, and they custom spec high preload rails. So rail preloading is done based on a spec. Do they actually have, did they just say high preload rails, or is there an actual spec there? Because that is interesting. I haven't ever bought anything from West 3D, but I'm thinking about it on this build. I'm actually talking to KB3D, Fabrico, and I haven't reached out yet to West 3D, but I plan to. My shopping list is starting to come together. Oh yeah, we got to talk about that. Where are we with time? Oh, we're not too bad. We're only about 48 minutes in. We got to talk about the polls that I've had back on the channel, and I know some of you guys don't visit the channel, so I want to give you an opportunity here as well to do some of that. So let me see if I can figure out. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to throw a poll up right now and ask a question. Have you... Actually, I'm not going to tell you what I'm writing, or you're just going to write it. Have you It's a secret until you guys see it. There we go. Cool. All right, so I got that at the top there. I'm interested in knowing, basically, have you voted on the community channel to see if you have voted there for parts? I have been putting polls up there every once in a while. But I want to know how many people are actually going on there to see if that's actually functionally working, or if I need to do it during something like this, so everybody has an opportunity to share their opinion. And we're going to talk about where things are right now. I'll bring them up on the screen in a minute. But yeah. Let's see, rarely if ever, basically when it's time to do major maintenance after 100 hours, usually at that point just replace the rails during an upgrade. 100, okay, 1,000 hours, okay. I was like 100 hours, man. That's like a month and a half for a lot of people. 1,000 hours is 10 months. I guess we're on the same page, David. We're at about a year, I would guess, for most people that enjoy the hobby on a regular basis. Let's see here. Thanks, David. I was hoping it shouldn't be very often. I'm about 30 hours. Yeah, 30 hours. So let's talk about 30 hours, though. I know this is a talking head video, and I apologize for that, but this is what they are, right? We're all hanging out. Only I can't see you. You guys just see me. Shame on me. There are things that you should be doing on your printer, and I've talked to Woody about this, and I've talked about this in videos too. You know, I often tell people that as soon as you have your printer up and working, and it's, you know, relatively well tuned, the first thing you should be doing is print replacement parts for all of the parts on your printer. When I say that, I don't mean like the skirts and things like that, but I mean all of your tool head parts, all of your motion parts, your AB mounts, your XYs, anything that basically will or could break will break eventually, so you should have replacement parts of that. That's the first thing you do, and that's like definitely within the first 30 hours of printing well. After that, after doing a couple heat soaks, another thing I suggest you do is you consider basically going through and retightening your belts if they need it. You should be able to decently be able to tell if anything's changed there. It's that first time period of between, I'd say, 20 and 100 hours that those belts are most likely to loosen up a little bit. And what's happening there is, everything's been heated up for the first time and cooled off and heated up and cooled off and heated up, and your plastic parts are going to stretch or retract a little bit depending on how things are, and your belts are going to do the same. So within that, again, probably pre-100, post 20 hours, you should be doing that. So there's some minor maintenance you should be doing around the 30-hour level, definitely. And those are probably two of them. Actually, the two most ones is your motion system stuff. Keep an eye on it. Other than that, you're going to see a degradation probably from hours 50 through 100, where things are going to start to get a little wonky and you're going to be chasing your tail. So call it preventive maintenance on the printer before you get to that point, right? All right, let's see here. A well-packed grease rail, once installed, won't need much maintenance in a long time. It should be mostly closed system. Keep the rail clean and at least debris as best as possible. Yep, I agree with that. If you have an enclosed printer, it's less of an issue. If you have a non-enclosed printer, as clean as your home or your office or wherever your printer is, it will get dust, and the dust will make its way into the grease, and the grease will start to muck up. So keeping your door shut on your printer, if it's a fully enclosed printer, is a good idea. If it's not an enclosed printer, you may want to every once in a while take something like some WD-40 or something similar to that, something that's not a stringent base cleaner, nothing like you know, I like my isopropyl alcohol for cleaning things, but I wouldn't clean your rails with it if you're just looking to take dust off and things like that. But you're going to want to clean things a little bit more often if you don't keep your printer closed up. I have all Honey Badger rails and I love them. My thought is the extra 30 was well worth it. Michael, I'm interested in that as well, and that's one of. Let me look where this pole is here. Where is this? I can't see. Can I see it over here? Oh, nobody else can see it. Is it telling me much? It's not telling me. It's telling me I know what's winning in this poll, and it's kind of interesting. It's not very far off, but so one of my questions was, and why don't we bring that up while I'm talking about it? Actually, let's bring up my channel, and let's go to the community page, and I'll bring that over here in a second. And community, and bring this over here. And you get to see my cheesy face again. There we go. And let's put this on this. So this is my community page if you haven't seen it before. Let me get my chat back up so I can see it too. One of the things I had in here was specific to the rails. And right now it looks like the Honey Badger rails are winning. So it looks like people are in agreement with you, Michael. So at one point, the foreign bought rails were winning, and I realized that a lot of you guys like me, but obviously some people must hate me because that would have been horrible. I'm surprised that Kris's KB3D rails are actually ranked lower than LDO's. I've actually had some pretty good experiences with his rails. Like I said, that's kind of what replaced the one on the printer right now. And then there's a few other here with the others. West 3D came up right here, so that's probably the first comment that came up with West 3D. And as you may not know, I respond to nearly every single comment pretty darn quickly, but yeah. Let's see, West 3D, I believe they have coatings on my backers from here, they're noted. Yep, okay. So yeah, I am interested in those Honey Badger rails, and have you tried other rails, I guess? Let me ask you that. You have the Honey Badgers, have you tried rails, the LDO rails? Have you tried the KB3D rails? Have you tried other rails? Or is it just your experience just happens to be good with the Honey Badgers? In theory, it's correct about the lighter oil. Though I use Mobilex EV2 on my rails, and I have all 15K plus on some, probably matters, I'm sure. I think it probably just matters on the amount of drag from the steppers. You know, I mean, we're talking about minute things. We're talking about those guys that go after those, you know, 4-minute benchies. You're not one of those 4-minute benchy guys, are you? Let's see here. Totally worth the cost, I agree. Okay. Let me see here. Sounds about right. Up to 100 hours is still a baby. Yep, I agree. I'm doing my 100-hour maintenance right now. Perfect. 100 hours is a good point to pull a tool head. Check the inductive probe for melting if using one too. Yeah. So I've never had issues with a melting inductive probe, but a lot of people do. And I think a lot of that spans from, it's on that printer, the mosquito tool head, because that was really popular maybe a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I don't remember. But people were actually installing it properly, which is backwards from the way that you're supposed to put it into a Voron printer because of the way that the unit works. So I've never had trouble with my inductive probe melting. But now I noticed in the LDO kit, this LDO kit right here, that this actually came with a insulating aluminum piece to put around the inductive probe if you use that. So it's a very common issue. Let's see here. I've not tried anything else. Okay, it's not a bad thing. You haven't had to, right? Self-sourcing, get most parts for Kris. He was great. Yep, Kris from KB3D. Hector is from Fabrico. So we got Kris, we got Hector. I don't know who's at West 3D, but maybe I'll introduce myself or something. Before printing and replacement parts, you may practice using Stealthburner, Eyedler, A and B, and make sure they fit together. Oh yeah. So that part that Chuck is talking about is the very, very small 2-part piece to the inside of the clockwork. Yeah, it's inside the clockwork. That basically helps with the tensioning of the filament, and they're supposed to snap together relatively, I don't want to say hard. They're supposed to be snug, but not be impossible to put together, and they shouldn't come apart easy, but they should be able to be taken apart. So it's a very good test. I agree with that, and they're very small. So that's another good tip right there. So they're small pieces, they're quick to print, and things that you can print quickly are way easier to make modifications on than when you're printing, say, your one of your Z drives bottoms there. Those take quite a while. So good tip. Let's see here. I like HB rails, Honey Badger rails, just as much as Berserker rails. Who makes the Berserker rails? I'm not familiar with the Berserker rails. What is that, West 3D? And I like those slightly more than LDO rails. LDO rails better than all other standard rails. Okay, good information. I've tried a lot. I get bored. Haha. Okay. Well, your opinion's better than mine because I try what I come up with, but West 3 is Berserker rails. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So here's a tough question: what's better, a Berserker rail or Honey Badger? You say you like them as much. Do you have a preference between the two? Huh? Let me do this real quick here. Let's move some stuff around over here on my screen so I can see things. I'm going to end this this poll that we got going on right now because I think I got what I need, and I think everybody gets to see. Yep. So the question was, have you been to my channel to vote on the rebuild series for parts? And the majority of you say no. It's pretty close. 16 of you guys voted, so I appreciate that. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys some of the questions I have on my poll. Because we need to get parts ordered for the rebuild of the old Voron, and that basically is going to be it's going to be more into 2 parts, but 2 major parts. One is the teardown and checking on the parts to see where where things are worn, what needs to be replaced, what needs to be maintained, lubricated, and things like that. That's the primary reason why I'm doing this on this other printer, is so questions like when should I be re-oiling, things like that, we can go over those parts. There are some parts that you want to change after 1,000 hours. There's some parts you want to maintain, lubricate. There's some parts you just want to clean, and there's some parts that you don't touch. If it works, just leave it alone. So that's a major part of that. So let me bring up my screen again. So the first poll I had was 6 days ago, and it was the hot end. So as of current, the Revo/Revo High Flow is in the lead, followed by the Rapido. So here's the funny thing about this, is a lot of these are similar to what I already built right next to me, which I don't have a problem with. It works really well. It was a pretty decent build, but I find it interesting. So anyways, Revo's in the lead, seconded by the Dragon High Flow, and then the Rapido, and then there were some other oddball things that really wasn't enough to talk too much about. The Mosquito came in a little bit. What do you guys think? People on the stream right now, here's your opportunity. You didn't vote here possibly, or maybe you did, so you get a double vote. What do you feel? Do you think a Revo or a Revo High Flow, and if so, which one? Or do you have something else in mind? And I'll keep talking, but you guys go ahead and stack up that information if you want to. Next question I had was for the Z Probe, whether we go clicky, which I've never done before. I've been anti-clicky for the most part, just because it seems like a lot of moving parts and a lot of extra code required to go and dock and undock and pull it down and do this and put it back. And, you know, I haven't heard of a lot of people having them fail, but there's a lot going on there. But overwhelmingly, I mean, like by, you can see it right there, 81% picked the tap. So not a problem. I'm more than happy to go with the tap again. The unclicky tap, which is what basically Po' Boy was using, came in with a third actually. An inductive probe is way down there, 2%, which doesn't surprise me, but it begs me to say that there's nothing wrong with inductive probes. They actually work pretty well. I wouldn't hesitate to use inductive probe. Let's see here. Let me go back here. We'll talk about the bed here in a second, Tim. Bob in the States, Fabrico Honey Badger, Fabrico Performance Brand. Yes, okay, he's entering that. Thank you. I'm using Dragon, I like the Revo. Okay. Really like my Dragon STs and HFs. Yep. I have a Dragon as well. I don't have a problem with it. Actually, I had a problem with it, but I don't have a problem with it in general. Clicky works great. With Sense Tap, it's obsolete. And like you said, more moving parts, micros, additional steps. Okay. I like Revo High Flow, but only get about 21 millimeters a second, per meter second, but love the parts it produces. Yeah, so that's my one issue I would say with a Revo. Let me switch my camera view again here real quick. So that's the one problem I do have with a Revo. I have a Revo, I actually have a Revo on this guy. This is my V0 if you haven't seen it before. Built that a while back, back when V0s kind of first came out. Not really first came out, but we're relatively new. That's running a Revo, and at some point I'm gonna put a better hot end in this, because these small V0 printers can print at obscenely high speeds because they're still using the same Core XY movement, but there's not a lot of space in here. We're talking about a tiny bed, and we're talking about maybe a total of about 100 millimeters, 80 to 100 millimeters of movement available here, and not a lot of mass in the tool head. So these can print at obscene speeds, but the limiting factor on this was the Revo. I agree that this is just a standard Revo. There's no Revo High Flow at the time, but the standard Revo is definitely the limiting factor. I am interested in the fact that that you're not seeing huge improvements with a High Flow. I mean, you're seeing some from what I can gather, but nothing huge. I'm not a huge speed freak, but actually there's another poll that gets into that. So let me take on that and maybe look at these comments again. Okay, so we're up with the comments. So that's that. So next thing I had in here was this is the call into what you were saying there when we're talking about speed. This next question was rebuild, build for speed, build for quality, throw parts in, get what you get. So speed actually was the lowest thing on here, which a little bit surprising to me. Quality was right in the same line to see, let's see where the parts bring us, 60 and 60%. And then 66% was speed and quality mix, which I kind of understand, because what's one without the other, really? I mean, if you can't print at a decent speed, then you can have all the quality in the world, but if it doesn't materialize, and you know, what's the deal? And if you have a high quality, you have a high speed print, but there's no quality to it, then what's the purpose of having the part, right? So, so again, there's you guys' opportunity. If you have a thought behind that, if you think differently than that, let me know. If you're agreeing with that, then good. But yeah, so that's that one. And then the other question that came up was about the bed mounts, and the next one I had here, it's kind of funny, you guys are asking the questions kind of similar to what I had here. It was for the bed, and basically what do we want to do with the bed? We want to do a Mandela Roseworks Ultraflat Magbed, Ultraflat Magbed with kinematic mounts, precision printer parts bed, or standard bed / or dash the FormBot bed, which is the one that's on there, which I actually haven't any issues with. I know it's not perfectly flat, but I haven't any issues with it. And overwhelmingly, people have picked the Ultraflat Magbed with the kinematic mounts. So I did consider the lightweight kinematic system, but there are a couple of problems when you mix that with the Ultraflat Magbed and the heater that I plan on using on the bed. The mounts don't work really well with that system. I don't know exactly why. I didn't ask for details, but I did talk to somebody about it. Actually, I think I was talking to Kris about that. So I probably, and the way it looks right now, it's probably going to be MRW Ultraflat Magbed with their kinematic mounts. I think this time we're going to go with the outriggers because I do think I want to hit some additional speeds on this next printer when it comes out. But yeah, that's where we're at with that. Let's see here. 21 versus 14, if people are curious, are just more. Let's see, 21 versus 14, curious if people are just more. Oh, 21. Oh, so so if you want to know if anybody's getting more than you, I assume. But I mean, that's a decent jump. I don't think I've ever done an actual extrusion test on this to see what my max out was. I get to a point where things kind of get a little wonky and I back down. You know, I don't go for the numbers. Let's see, rebuild pole rails. We already talked about this a little bit, but I had, and I told you about that, but I think Honey Badger's looking pretty good now. The Berserk, who was it? Was there a final, David, on the Berserker versus the Honey Badger? Maybe Honey Badger edges over a bit more. Okay, so you're in line with what's on there. And then do a couple more of these. Getting more, yeah. Yeah, if anybody is getting more. Leave a comment on the video if you're getting more. And then 21 cubic millimeters per second on your Revo high flow. We'll find out. Next one was a follow-up on the build. So standard Voron tap, Rev 8 versus CNC tap, Chaotic Labs. CNC tap is edging out the Rev 8 Voron tap build, so it looks like as of right now, that's where we're going to go with that. If you guys have a different opinion, go ahead and let it be known. And then most recently, I had this one go up, was rebuild for the gantry parts, the AB parts, and things like that. The first one is Chaotic Labs' new carbon fiber kit, and the reason I wrote new carbon fiber kit is because they did have a small hiccup with their kit. I'm not hugely thrilled about going with that. I'm kind of worried, but we'll see if that stays there. The standard build with pin mods got 0, and a standard build by itself is at 33%. This is new as of a couple hours ago, so that will change, I'm sure. And then once this one gets done, because of the comment or a comment earlier today, I'll probably rerun that poll with a poll about using CNC parts, which I didn't really think about, but I think maybe they'd be good. And I'm not fully sold on that, but I'm willing to try it. There we go. All right, so I wanted to talk about that. What else did we want to do? Oh, yeah, I want to do a bed mesh on this thing because I haven't done one. I haven't done a bed mesh on the new printer. I haven't been running one at all, and the prints have come out perfectly fine. But I am interested in it because it is a Ultraflat bed from MRW. So let's do that real quick on this video. I can do it by myself, but why do it by myself when you guys can hang out and watch it too? So let me get that going. And I don't know where bed mesh is in main sale. That's embarrassing. I've been a fluid user for a long time, and I run mainsail on this little guy, but I've never done bed mesh on it because it's so damn tiny. And I haven't done it on this yet, but I don't know. I have to find it. Let's see here. Installed camp, it's working like a champ. And you're rhyming. Love the CNC parts, especially parts with direct contact with hot steppers. That might be the selling point. That might be the selling point on that. Camp, I'm going to be doing a video on camp. I'm actually going to be doing a full set of videos on startup of your printer at some point here in the not so distant future. Once I have this to a point where I'm happy with how everything's working, so I can go back down through it and actually make usable video. But camp will be part of that as well. Let's see, should be in the sidebar. Let me see here. Height map on the left side. I'll figure that out. I don't see it. Maybe I have to enable it first. I know like webcam you have to enable first. Let me see. That is kind of odd. Let's see, status, control, macros, G-code viewer, miscellaneous, nope. Presets, nope. Nope. UI settings. Let's see here. Require average stop, power device, navigation style, icon text, upload, disable fan animation. I don't know. Well, I guess we're not doing it right now, huh? How about that? Let's see here. Oh, maybe that's what it is. I don't have it in my printer config. That must be it. Bed mesh. Yeah, you're right. I don't think I have it in my print config file. So another thing I've been working on, actually, let me give credit to somebody real quick. I've been talking with, where is he? Where is he? Oh, it's Tim. Names all meshed together. Anyways, yes, I've been talking with Tim, who's in here right now, and Tim and I have been talking about software and programming in general a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. And specifically, we were talking about code and how screwed up code is. So what Tim doesn't know, hasn't seen yet, is my printer config file is minuscule. I think Woody will actually speak to that. Woody showed me what his start code looked like, and then I showed him what my start code looked like. My start code is probably a total of maybe 8 lines, and Woody's start code was like 35. So anyways, Tim has a very me waves wildly. Tim has a very in-depth backstory with programming that goes back quite a bit, and he caught one of my videos where I was setting up something. I don't remember if it was Tap or NeoPixels or something, but I was talking about code, and I was talking about my code, and specifically he had commented, and I'm talking about you like you're not even here, but you are here. So he had commented about the comments That sounds funny. He commented about the comments on the code and how it's a bad idea, and I told him how I agree with that. However, you know, there's a lot of people working with a lot of different things here, and the biggest differences are that you never know what somebody's going to be watching. My code, once I put it in my printer and I get it all settled out, I get rid of all the comments. I'm just mentioning some of the stuff because I think they're very good comments from Tim, and I wanted to share them with you guys. So you can thank Tim if you want to. But basically, once you're all done with your code, you got it where you want it to be. If you want notes, you can make a separate file with notes on it, but your actual config code and things like that, the things that the printer is actually going to go top down, left to right as it goes through, as it's scanning through constantly, the more excess crap you have, the more that it has to process. It's kind of like you trying to understand or listen to a conversation while you have a bunch of chit chat going on around you. So it's not a good thing to have all that excess crud. We'll call it crud. We also talked a little bit about syntax. We talked a little about indents. We talked a little bit of this, that, and the other thing. But I'm really excited to have Tim as a new friend. I think we're going to possibly work a little bit together because I think there's a huge lapse of people that create clean code when it comes to printers, because we're more interested in how they print versus how they work internally. And it's not until something goes wrong that we start looking at code. So I just wanted to thank Tim for that. So there's that. Let's see here. That's for 350 bill. Oh, the bed mesh. I'm not going to set the bed mesh right now. I'll wind up doing it at some point. Subtract 50 of the points for 350 build. Yeah, pretty much. Let's see here. David, mesh max 2727 should be changed. Needed 300. Yep. Yeah, I'll get it set up. I'm not too worried about it. You guys don't worry about me about setting up the bed mesh. I have bed mesh on other printers. I guess I haven't set it up here, and it played into the fact that I don't have any code in this printer currently that I'm not actually using, and then a bed mesh, so it's not available yet. But I did want to talk about that a little bit because it's very good. So we're not going to do a bed mesh. That's fine. But again, I haven't had to do one on this printer. I've printed a few items without any issues whatsoever. I'm very excited about that. I do plan on coming out, like I said, with some videos about the configuration, the first runs, the things like that. I know most of you guys have already seen them, but they do help other people. I'm going to continue to do these types of videos during the summer. The other more in-depth videos are going to be probably a little bit more sporadic. Probably towards the end of July, just to let you guys know where things are at. End of July, probably within the first 2 weeks of August, I'm going to start on the rebuild of the other Voron. I just got to get all the parts in hand before I start doing that. If you haven't left comments on the channel page or sent me an email, I'm going to throw my email in here right now. If you haven't, if you haven't had my email address or anything like that, if you have an option I haven't considered, or if you have something you want to throw in there about that rebuild, throw me an email, leave me a comment on this video, leave me a comment on my channel page. Any way you can get a hold of me, I'm more than willing to listen to it. I want this to be a community-driven thing, this rebuild. This channel's already community-driven, so I want to keep that up. So, yeah. With that all being said, I don't want to keep this hugely long, honestly. So, unless somebody has something cool they want to talk about, I guess I'll talk about a couple of little things I plan on doing with the other printer real quick. Well, I'll give you guys a few moments to possibly add anything. I briefly talked about doing a kind of a gauge cluster using the blue Big Tree Tech. I forget what they're called now. The little round dials, the ones you put in the Stealthburner. Basically little LCD screens. I'm going to try to get that done. I possibly may try to get Woody to help me out with some of the fusion on that. So hopefully I get some buy-in from Woody to help with that. So as opposed to having a touch screen on the front of that printer, I think it's just gonna have gauges on it. There's a bunch of cool stuff that I really want to do. Just gotta wrap my head around it. And you guys, yes, the Nomi. So the Nomis, I'm gonna wind up with I have one that I got from Big Tree Tech that's going to go up in the Stealthburner. They provide that free of charge, so that's gonna go there. That's where they want it. That's where they mean it to go. I don't know if that's where they want it, but I'll assume that's where they want it. But I am also purchasing 3 additional ones from Kris or Fabrico, KB3D or Fabrico, whoever, and we're going to do a gauge cluster on the bottom. That's one of my goals for the printer. It might come a little bit after the printer is completely done. It might be something we add in after. But once I saw those, that's the first thing I thought of is gauge cluster, because honestly, I don't use the screens, touch screens, or the jog wheels on my printers very much. I control them all via the web console, so I thought it'd be cool to have kind of a different look on them. So yeah. Let's see, Heatherland 1962, just curious if you have a list of the electronics your build. I'm thinking of upgrading my 2.4. Heather, you're talking about my LDO build that I just mechanically completed? If you are, I don't have an official list, but I would be willing to fill out a Google sheet. I'm building one right now for the upgrade on the other printer. Or you're talking about, okay. So I'd be more than happy to fill out a Google sheet and share that. Just look in the description of this video, probably within next, give me 72 hours. Give me by the end of the weekend. And what I'll do is I will try to put in a list of things, and then my email address is on here, a couple rows up if you didn't see it. If you have additional questions about parts, go ahead and ask me. I've talked about many times. There are some parts on the printer that I strongly suggest, some parts that you could do without, and some parts that I probably wouldn't do again. So just ordered the newly released OEM Riga for the Clockwork 2. Just looking forward to seeing how it works out. Yes, I have 2 of those coming. Should make it a little bit more tight, right? Tight's a good word for that. Let's see, I've been looking at that myself. Yep. So there's a reverse version of that and a normal version of that, so make sure you get the proper one. Basically, that's an all-in-one piece that has the drive gear on it for your extruding mechanism on your Clockwork 2, so you don't have to actually build it. It's all put together already from a machine, factory built, nice and solid and tight and high tolerance. Yeah, so I guess with that, and I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I'm gonna go ahead and clear this up. I'm gonna thank everybody for coming in. Hopefully this wasn't overly boring, but again, during the summer, I run out of a lot of time, so these are kind of fun, kind of easy still to do. If you got questions over the course of the week or over the course of time when I'm not doing videos, by all means, shoot me an email, leave a comment. Those are things I talk about during these videos. I'm going to continue to update people on where we are with the rebuild and what parts we're using. I may start ripping that thing apart sooner than the late July, early August timeframe, because I want to have it apart so we can start rebuilding it around there. So you might see a couple of videos come out with that. First video I'm going to do on that basically is to go over the parts on that FormBot. I'm going to do a slightly more in-depth view on what parts are in there that weren't in the LDO and vice versa. So there's that. And let's see here. Be well, everyone. Thanks. Good time, Kern. Thanks for joining in. Yes, so yeah, so for everybody that's been here before, I appreciate you guys coming back again. Hopefully you continue to watch. Hopefully we continue to stick around and hang out with each other, and when things get a little bit cooler outside and everybody wants a little bit more time in the fall, we'll get right back into building a lot more things and having a lot more fun. But for that, I will say good evening, good morning, good afternoon, or whatever you have, and gotta say good night to Max too, because I see Max there. Max down in New Jersey, right? But yeah, anyways, you guys all have a wonderful, whatever it is time of day you have. I will see you soon. I will try to put notification for when the next live stream is, at least a day in advance, and keep an eye out for more videos. And yeah, thanks.